So, welcome to episode 6 of Lifted Spirits podcast. This is finding meaning in presentation, which is, how we present ourselves physically, just even the emotional vibes we give off to people. And it sounds boring, but I think it's really interesting because so much of life is in finding meaning in the little things. And there's just the first thing you notice about someone is their physical appearance. And then the second thing you notice is just how they carry themselves. Not even the exact thing they say, but just their demeanor. And so I just thought that'd be an interesting topic to explore.
Yeah, I love it. Very nuanced.
Yeah. And so we've got this is a Japanese whiskey. The Suntory company makes this Hibiki, and I picked it because I thought, this is a presentable bottle. This is a beautiful bottle. It's gorgeous. And there's something, I don't know, I'm just a great admirer of Japanese culture. Maybe it's over-romanticizing things, but some of my favorite foods are Japanese, sushi. The cameras I use are Japanese. They're Sony's. My car is Japanese. And I didn't even notice this for a
I never knew this about you.
Yeah, I know. And my favorite whiskeys are Japanese. And they took, I think the past 6 years or something, they've won the World Whiskey Championship for 3 or 4 of those years, which is such a Japanese thing to do, to take things that other people do and then devote your life to that craft and do them better. And I think that's why I just admire that culture. And same with some of my favorite films are Japanese. There's just something magical about it.
Perfect for this episode.
Exactly.
The devil's in the details.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's almost like reverse racism. Does it count if I'm
every Japanese person is a perfectionist?
No, in the sense of where I feel like they're better than us.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Japanese people are better than us. They're doing things so well, it seems. I haven't been yet. I hope to at some point. My mom lived in Japan for a while in college for a year, and I've been saving up money with her for several years now to go over there with her, to just us two, to do a mother-son trip, and so I'm excited for that. I still don't know exactly when it'll happen, and maybe I'll get there and be like, oh, y'all are just like us, but I just have this airy, romantic vision of Japanese
Maybe
culture.
You shouldn't go.
Yeah, maybe I should just let them be this mystical, beautiful people. You see all the pictures of their architecture so gorgeous, and they just seem to put so much thought into presentation. I guess that's what I'm saying, and could be 100% wrong about that. That's just the impression that I've gotten. Because look at this bottle. This is not Jack Daniels.
No.
That's a good-looking bottle. Anyway, so I thought I start this one asking the question about who you are in presentation, because people ask things when you first meet someone. They'll ask things like, what do you do? But I think the question, what are you like, is really interesting. So if you had to describe yourself, what are you like?
That's an interesting question, because you just let in, it's our presentation is all this unspoken stuff that we give across, the aura. And so it's hard to describe an aura. Me, I'm kind of like if a West Coast surfer dude and a Southern jock had a baby, and then maybe a street musician and a mountain craftsman had a baby, and those two babies had a baby. Somewhere in the mix of all that.
That is such a beautiful and extremely accurate description.
Yeah, and a little bit unnerving to think about all that web there, but somewhere in there. I don't know. My style is very much my own, and it comes from a lot of influences, where I was raised, the kind of people I've been around, and just generally aesthetics of people that have caught my eye throughout the years, and people that I appreciated, their energy and their aura and their aesthetic. I don't know. I'm fairly relaxed in my presentation most times, but I feel like that's kind of part of it. I feel like not caring is still part of the presentation sometimes, whatever that means. And typically pretty budget friendly, try to be pretty minimalistic. I like to buy, quality things and just hold on to them and make them work for me for a long time. So yeah, I'm not into fashion per se or the newest trends, but
I can teach you a thing.
yeah. But I feel confident and I feel good about the way that I present myself. So that's what matters to me.
Yeah, and which for those listening who don't know, I am the opposite of a fashion guru. But how would you describe yourself, like your demeanor?
Pretty relaxed. I try to be very down to earth. I try to be empathetic. I'm not always. If you listen to the episode where we talked about marriage and our wives, she's good at reminding me I'm not always the most empathetic. I try to be, I just try to love people. I'm very interested in people, who they are, why they are the way they are. So yeah, I just try to be a curious, chill guy.
Yeah, that is very accurate. I'd probably describe myself, the first thing I'd think of is just passionate. Like I'm a very passionate person and care about things and people. Like the things that I care about and the people that I care about, I'm like all in an almost overbearing way sometimes. And I'm a romanticist, that's for sure. Always just like dreaming up of how something could be better or more beautiful, or whether that's relationships or the work that I'm doing, whatever it is. And it does make it hard to just be content in life. I've gotten better at it, but I just have such, pie in the sky notions of what life could be if we all just did this or did that. And have tried to get people on various trains of sorts for years, and some more and less successful. But I care. And so that's some of my personality. I almost present a little stoically. Like it's not like I'm just deadpan, but I'm highly emotional internally. Like I like to be in control of my emotions. I don't like strong negative emotions like anger. I've never yelled at anybody in my whole life. Not my mom, not my wife, I just can't do it.
That's incredible.
It's just not in me. I've got all sorts of flaws and vices, but I'm just not. I don't like anger. It's not for me.
Oh, I don't like it, but I didn't choose anger. Anger chose me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel it, but I think the fear is like I'm afraid of unleashing it and what it'll do, whether that's what I say, and I'd rather just wait till things cool down. And it can sort of piss off Alexa sometimes. Sometimes we're like talking about something and they're a little contentious, and she wants to contend about it, and the fact that I'm sort of backing off and I'm like, let's give this some space, just makes her more mad. She's like, no, like we need to sort this out now, and sometimes that's the case, and I'm just not capable of doing it. But yeah, that's internally, I guess. Externally, I've been pretty trashy for most of my life. I'm trying to turn that around. That's some of what I thought this would be a good topic of discussion, because I think, so starting in junior high-ish, I started growing out my hair. Not that inherently is trashy, but I sort of had this perception that the people that I had the hardest time respecting were politicians, businessmen, and preachers, and they tended to have, the business look, the suit, clean cut, short hair, and so I was trying to be everything they weren't, kind of punk, and yeah, there's a balance, because I would shower a lot less than I needed to, and I'd wear these gross white undershirts all the time, and one of my main goals for this year was like, I'm not going to wear my gross white undershirts in public at all. And so far I stuck to it. I got these new shirts that I really like, that I feel like are, kind of minimalistic, but then nice and presentable. It's Lucky brand. I don't know if I can plug a link to them. I still have no idea how all this podcasting and YouTube stuff works. So hope maybe I can plug them. Yeah, promotional. But I've really liked their stuff. I found it in a what's it called? Like a half and half store, and bought a couple. And then I thought I really like these, and then I went to their actual website and ordered some from the real company. But yeah, just trying to put a little more thought into not being so trashy and unkempt, and finding a balance between not being so wrapped up in your image and your presentation, but then not just totally kicking it to the wayside and giving off homeless person vibes.
Because you're still giving off some sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Even if you don't care, it's still a vibe.
100%. Also, who's someone, this could be a famous person or even just a fictional character that you think just like really presents themselves well? Someone that you think that's a sharp looking fella or fellette.
Do you have one?
Well, yes, but it's kind of funny. So one of my great role models in life is Hannibal Lecter. And not really, obviously, but so I saw some of the show with Mads Mikkelsen, I think is how you say it, and I was really inspired, oddly enough, by Hannibal Lecter, of the fact that he's like this well-cultured gentleman on the outside, obviously, of like, you know, he's well-versed in music and poetry and literature, and he wears these nice suits and throws these elaborate dinner parties with these, and creates these beautiful spreads of charcuterie things, and I just saw that, and legitimately that did more to inspire me to present myself better than all the things my mom tried growing up. I don't know why that is, because my mom tried very hard and nothing worked, but Hannibal Lecter got to me just because I guess I saw it and I was like, yeah, like I want to look sharper. I want to, like, you know, be well-versed, well-articulated. I'd love to throw dinner parties and be able to give people food that's not other humans. I try to cut out that part, the cannibalism aspect, but other than that, just, going for it.
Yeah. Same effect, but very much the opposite of a pastor or a politician.
Or serial
businessman.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I take bits and pieces from a lot of different people. One person in my childhood that I thought was really cool was Paul Walker. You remember him from the Fast and Furious?
Yeah, he was also my girlfriend's dad name was Paul Walker.
Okay. Not that Paul Walker, but yes, the movie star. He was always just very simple. It was always like a white t-shirt and like some chinos and some Converse, and I took that and I was like, yeah, you can make that look good and quality, like a well-fitting t-shirt and just some basic pants and some cool shoes. Like, everyone thought he was cool.
Yeah, I've definitely seen parts of the Fast and Furious movies, but
yeah, I've seen 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They started going to space, I was out.
Yeah. I have, The Onion, they have an interview thing, like a fake interview where they interview the director of Fast and Furious 8, I think it is, and it's like a 6-year-old kid, and he's like, and then the cars go vroom and there's an explosion, it's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate.
Anyways, he was cool.
Okay. I don't know much about him, so I'll take your word for it. I'll look into him later. I know who he is, but and people say things like you can't judge a book by its cover, and that's partially true, but I think it's more accurate to say you can't judge a book only by its cover, because how we present ourselves says a lot about ourselves, and oftentimes you can tell a lot about a person, not in a judgmental way, but because that person is trying to convey something by the way that they present themselves, and there seems to be value in that. But people say, I don't care what people think about me, and in a way you kind of should, not in a vain way, but you should value what both your friends and family think of you and your colleagues and just society at large. you don't have to be weighed down or think like I have to conform to all these expectations, but you kind of got to play the game to some extent. Like if you get too far out, like I was in some ways, it's just like you don't have a proper role in society, I don't think. This is just, again, me speaking kind of for myself, but what do you think is the value of focusing on presentation, and then maybe some of the pitfalls and dangers that can come along with it too?
Well, it's kind of like you were saying. I think there's value in being able to portray those very subtle things about yourself to the people that are in your environment, whether they pick those things up consciously or not. When you see someone, you make inferences about them. And I think that's pretty cool that you can do that just by walking into a room. So with that comes like an element of freedom, through that self-expression, through, the physical presentation to look however you want. I think that's cool. Like it gives you that clean slate of creativity. Like, hey, especially when you become an adult. When you're a kid, it's not so much, but like, hey, you can walk into this room wearing anything you want to. Like, what do you want to say to the people that look at you when you walk in? I think that's pretty neat. Obviously, the dangers, you can be totally consumed with this stuff and be way too worried about the way others are perceiving you to a point where you're so self-conscious that you can't think about anything else. If you're constantly inward focused, you're not going to be focused on anyone or anything around you. So that's dangerous. Then there's definitely the issues that come with fast fashion, the environmental issues, obviously, and then just spending way too much money on designer brands or the new coolest trends, which I'm strongly against. Like, I'm all for being fashionable and looking cool, but there are so many ways to do that and not spend $1 million on all these different brand names. So I like to buy quality things and make them last and not buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need just because it has a cool label on it. So.
Yeah. Presentation I found a new fun in it almost, of like, okay, I don't want to get too wrapped up, but even this podcast and like being here, we're here at the Brick Ballroom again in Siloam Springs, great venue. They let us use the space so kindly of them, and like just having a pretty place, like trying to set up the cameras nicely, get good angles, get good lighting. This is just a normal table, but I was like, I got some burlap stuff that'll make it look a little nicer. Maybe it just putting some thought into like, how are you gonna convey the message you're sending, the things you're doing. It's kind of fun. And now I feel bad for all that I put my mom through of like, okay, I wish I would have listened to her a little earlier, but I guess it just wasn't connecting how she was conveying it. It's not like she was doing it wrong, but yeah, putting more thought into how do I present myself.
Yeah. It seems like there's definitely some religious baggage tied up there for me too, of like not being consumed with the beauty of something or the way that something looks, a person looks, but coming to a place in my life where I'm like, beauty is good and beauty is real. Like when you walk into a space and just the feng shui is right and the colors are beautiful and the light's coming through the windows in the perfect way and hitting this picture, and you're like, this feels good. It feels warm. It feels comforting. It feels right, and the same thing when I was building my house, just the angles and the lighting and the window placement and the colors and the things that I wanted to do were for a reason, because you feel a certain way when you're in that space. And it's very much the same with the way that you portray yourself to the people around you, I think.
Yeah. Neil's house is really cool. You designed it, right? Like, yeah. Partially? Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Or the whole thing. Yeah, because it's simple. It's not like a big elaborate thing, but it's just like, it's got like this open space and the lighting and everything, and it's got a little loft, and so it's a cool thing.
Yeah, and it's very much an extension of me.
Yeah, which is how things should be and how things could be so fun, if you just like, yeah, like I can present myself in my clothes and my house and my car, and again, there's people who just get 100% or 200% into that and obsessed and consumed with it. But yeah, it's neat to think through those things. I think for me, like you said, the value being just appreciating beauty and something looking good. And it doesn't matter where you are, you can just see something and be like, that looks really nice. And it evokes some sort of sensation or emotion. And presentation is also representation, like of yourself first and foremost, but also of your family. And I thought of a story of last year, or no, wait, that might have been this year. But anyway, I was doing a job, and in the same day, I met one person who knew my brother, a person who knew my mom's dad, and a person who knew my dad's mom, my grandma. And all of them had really great things to say about them. And it was inspiring in a way of like, man, there's this power family name that I have to live up to, and I want to do what I can to become the person that's like, I want to be a representative of the power family and people have good things to say about me, not just because of vanity or whatever, but like how I present myself as a reflection of how I was raised and my family and just what I value. And so that's another thing that I've started thinking more about. It's like, okay, I'm not just presenting myself for me. Like there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah. I'm probably coming from the opposite end of the spectrum. Like we was the oldest and kind of like the golden child. Like I definitely wasn't perfect, but I put that weight on myself. And so a lot of my life has been like, how are people perceiving me? Am I being a good boy? Like, are my grades good? Or is my family proud of me? Like, does my grandpa proud of me? And so, yeah, I've kind of had to pull back in a lot of ways from that. Yeah, there's a good middle point there. I'm sure.
Got that youngest child syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care. But
it's definitely something that's come through with my tattoos, though. Every time I get one, I'm like, I think they're beautiful. I love them. Each one has a meaning, but my mom and my grandpa are not on board. But I think they still love me.
To share some of them and about some of them?
I can. I don't know if the picture will be.
It's fine.
Great,
you can just describe it.
Yeah. So I have roses on my shoulder here, and that's a family name for the women on my mom's side of the family, a middle name. So my mom's a rose, my sister's a rose, my grandmother's a rose, my cousin's a rose. But even the ladies in my life who aren't roses, it's kind of for all of them.
But what's this whole design?
So the roses are up here, and then below, I've got this just kind of like the creation here. It's supposed to look like armor, kind of, but instead of like a heavy armor, like metal plate, it's supposed to be more of like a beautiful, soft design with like the beadwork.
Yeah, like hopefully this doesn't sound offensive, but it's almost a little feminine.
Yeah, and all the pictures I could find of something similar were female tattoos, and so I went to my artist, and he's like, "Yeah, I like this, but it may be a little feminine." I'm like, "No, I'm very safe in my masculinity." Yeah. So yeah, he just drew it up, and I love it. But that's the whole point of it, is like it looks like armor, but it's this thought of like beauty and love is what will save the world and ultimately conquer, as opposed to war and destruction. And
maybe it's this glass of whiskey, but I got the feels
so
now.
so deep. Well, let me bring you right out of it. I've got a firefighting cat on my leg, and he's just kind of fun, but a lot of guys have like really intense, like Spartan guys on their arms or whatever, and flames is like firefighter, yeah. And I just kind of wanted to do the opposite and just like, it's just a cat, like he loves what he's doing, and he's even whistling as he's walking towards the fire, pulling the hose, and so he's having a good time and he's laid back. And so it's still, even that silly one is very meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. I definitely, because I didn't even ask you about the stories about the tattoos, but the first time I saw the cat, I was like, that is a little stupid. Yeah. But now that I hear the story, like, I love that. Like that it's like a challenge to the macho taking yourself too seriously. He's in the fire squad, and like everything, and that's so much like presentation can be deceptive. Like you don't know exactly what all is going on in someone's life, because it's not like when I presented myself more trashily, if that's a word, there was a reason for it, And I don't even necessarily regret it. It's just I'm at a different stage now, and you think, oh, you hope people care about investigating why you do the things you do, say the things you say, present yourself the way you do, and seek to understand rather than just judging and thinking, oh, why are they doing that? And that kind of leads into the story of my birthday party. I had a 30th birthday party in January this year, and I was inspired by Hannibal Lecter to some extent. He has these nice dinner parties, and I thought, I want to have a nice dinner party. And I also was inspired by things like Pride and Prejudice. You see all the people dancing and then the lines, and it's all very symmetrical even and pretty, and just entering a new era where I wanted to focus more on those things. So I threw a big dinner/ballroom dance party and sent out invitations in the mail and everything, and rented out a venue that was similar to this, that was, a pretty space that wasn't just a, convention center. There were some places I found where I was like, I could do it here, but do I really want to do it here? It's just like a local convention space. And so I tried to find somewhere that was actually beautiful and had some history to it, and had the people that I appreciated most in life come, and there's several that couldn't make it either, which was a bummer, but yeah, just had people together, and we did dancing, line dancing. Like, you see those ballroom dances and you think, I want to have a ballroom dance, and you never get invited to one. So I'm just going to make one, and had a bunch of people together. I wore a suit for the first time since, I don't know. I guess I wore a suit for my sister's wedding. I was kind of peeved about that.
Yeah, that was a little situation, right?
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to do it because it's her day. It's not about me, but I really do not want to wear a suit. I'm not a suit guy. But I thought I'm going to put some thought into my presentation, comb my hair and all that. And back when I had it, and got my wife Alexis a really cool dress that had these, I don't even know what you call them, like drapey arm things.
Drapey arm, I'm pretty sure that's what they call them.
The technical term. And yeah, we took good, cool pictures together and just tried to focus some on presentation. And it was a really good time. And it's sort of, celebrating things properly. And it's almost like a rite of passage helps you to actually materialize things. Like, okay, I'm entering into this new era. I'm having this celebration. It's almost like a ritual to where now I can think back to this time. Like, this is the stage I'm in life, and things could be different when I turn 40, but this is where I'm at now. So that was just like a story of presentation. And what would you say is a time you felt exhausted by the pressure to present yourself a certain way?
So I would actually say it's kind of a flipped situation. But in certain like circles or like religious groups or whatever, I would feel overdressed, even just in like my regular clothes. And I would feel this, I never talked to these people about this situation, so it could all be projection on my side, but I felt like I was wearing too much, or like I was too fashionable in a group of people that very much like were on the opposite end of the spectrum. And so I also felt like it almost felt like I was a distraction walking into the room, even though I'm like, wearing my normal stuff. So I definitely felt pressure when I would go to those places just to like tone it down, or like not wear my bright white shoes or like whatever. And I'm not a fashionista, but yeah, I feel like most of those situations probably come up when you feel underdressed, but my situation was kind of feeling overdressed.
I can't relate too much to that. I don't know. I thought of this question, and I'm sure there's something, probably more on an emotional level than a physical presentation. But I think, when it comes to mine, I think I've definitely, for a long time, I'd have various mentors in my life, whether it was like a church leader or something that I just really want to, be a good boy for. Like, you want to be on their good list. You want to be making them proud. You're always thinking like, oh, are they like proud of me or whatever? And that sounds kind of weird to say, because I think of myself as not caring if someone's proud of me or not, but you do. Like, you do care what people think about you. And so I think I have grown away from that, but have I, now that I'm thinking about it, like, you always want to make the people you care about that are like the older figures in your life proud of you. And that's a good thing on a baseline level, but just trying to find a healthy balance where it's not going to crush you if you feel like you're not living up to things exactly as you should, but then it's also like a call to be something better and be something that's worth being proud of. And so, why do you think it is that, what's the common denominator of why do some people put so much thought into presentation and other people put so little?
I feel like it's a privilege to be able to put a lot of thought into your presentation. I think there's a lot of people in the world that just don't have time to give a crap about how they look. They're just trying to get by. They're just trying to stay warm or stay cool and make it to work and make it home and take care of the kids and whatever, make their daily wage. So I don't know, it's kind of a privilege to be worried about like what kind of shoes you're wearing or like what your shirt says to an extent.
Yeah, very true. And this is a bit of a controversial question. I don't know if it should be, but I think I'll just say, would you generally agree with the statement, women often care too much about presentation, but men often care too little about presentation? And that's obviously like a broad generalization. There's always outliers, but would you generally agree with that statement, and why or why not?
I would not. First of all, I don't claim to know the female state. I know that there's a lot that goes into that and just a lot of mental hoops to jump through with that, just in general, in society, going through school, just being a woman, the way that they're over-sexualized in the media, and so there's so many things. So I have no idea. Don't claim to be an expert on women, but I don't think that's accurate, especially you look at the gym craze of the past 20 years, like guys are carrying just as much as what they look like. It may not always be like accessories or jewelry or the nicest clothes, but they're working on their body for a reason because they want to look a certain way. They want to be perceived a certain way. So I think it's an individual thing from person to person. I think in general, all people care too much about their presentation. So yeah, I would disagree with that statement.
It's weird how social media, I've never been, well, I can't say I've never been super connected with social media because I've written things on social media, but I've never really been in the presentation aspect, like Instagram or pictures even. And I'm sure that's been it's not like you can blame our generation for getting too deep into that when it's a drug of sorts. But that's not something I can relate to all that much of some people are, very focused on presentation because you have to keep up this perfect Instagram life and everything. I think there is some truth to women caring more about presentation, but not at all in a vain way. I mean, it can be, but I think women tend to realize that there's more to life. Like, it comes to them more naturally. There's more to life than just cold functionality. That like there's value in how you carry yourself in your presentation, and it, like you were talking about earlier, like it can warm someone. It can bring an ominous feeling if that's what you're going for. Like, it can do so many things, and women just seem to be more naturally almost spiritual in a way. Like, guys are just like, does it work? Or you think of trying to keep this positive again, but there's so many modern churches that don't have any windows and they're just like an industrial building, whereas in Europe it's like these cathedrals of beauty. And sure, you can say that all these people died building these things, and they used all this money, and there's something there, but like I don't know if this is, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's like I don't know if I'd care if I died building something like that, you know, like, and that millions of people saw for ages to come. And I was a part of that, of like inspiring people. If you walk into some of those cathedrals and just look up and you're like, whoa, this is so powerful and meaningful. And as opposed to, there's always things that are, speaking of wedding venues again, I can plug even Brick Ballroom, beautiful place. There's some wedding venues where you think this was created by some guy's uncle who, like, it's a barn that doesn't have any windows and he wanted to make some money. Yeah, something very rustic. Like, we have not updated it since it was holding animals, and now you're gonna have weddings in here. So yeah, I think in again, almost like a reverse sexism thing, like I think women are better than men overall in a lot of ways. Like, they just think more about these things and think more about their emotional presentation, like if people are feeling comfortable around them, as opposed to, I'm just free associating here, but I saw a video yesterday of this dude interviewing Bill Burr. He was just some radio host guy, and he was so like in your face and annoying and awkward and conceited, and like he didn't even know, and you could just see how uncomfortable Bill Burr was, and Bill Burr kind of like playfully trash talked him some and made fun of him, and it got under his skin a bit. But guys just don't think enough about, I think we could use more of considering like beauty. Like you said, there's that quote, beauty will save the world. I think it's a Dostoevsky quote, and it sounds cheesy, but like that's, I think, what we need right now. Even there's all this political turmoil and threat of nuclear war and whatnot, but the solution, it's easy for us to sit here and spout out solutions, but I really think there is something to like just valuing that beauty has this place that inspires people, to where you walk into one of those cathedrals and you no longer want to kill your Russian enemy. You're like, man, we're all humans. Like, we're all in this together, and we should,
there's something within us that aspires to like connect to this beauty and this goodness.
Absolutely. What's something in nature that's presentation like just kind of astounds you? Maybe a rock formation, I don't know, a place you've been, or an animal, or whatever.
Well, we've talked about Chamonix in the French Alps. Incredible. I was thinking about animals though, and it's not so much what they look like, but it's more of that energy and that aura that we talked about. But just like all the big cats, like the Bengal tigers and the lions and the panthers, just the way that they walk, and just the look. Just the eyes, it's just like something about them just conveys this confidence and this strength and this smoothness, that's really cool. And then there's things like jellyfish or like blue dragonfish that are just like these crazy alien things in the water that look like an acid trip. You're just like, what is that? But it's so cool.
Did you ever see that? I think it was a Planet Earth thing, of that fish that makes designs in the sand for its mate.
I haven't seen that.
It's really cool. It makes these like star patterns, like really elaborate things that I think is wild on a number of levels, of just that not just humans value beauty and presentation and aesthetics, but it's like a mating thing. It's just like swims through the sand and makes these perfectly symmetrical things to attract a mate, and that just blows my mind.
What kind of fish was it?
Some kind of puffer fish, of all things. And
check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you a link afterwards. It's kind of random, but I just wrote down a note of sushi because going back to Japanese stuff. But one of my goals for for this year, which I've not kept up with. I'm pretty good at keeping my goals. I've kept most of them, but one of them was to make sushi once a month, because the presentation thing of like, when I have friends over, I want to make them sushi when I can, and serve them a nice plate. Like if you're having friends over, like you want to serve them something nice. And so that's a continuing goal I want to have, is just every aspect of life, like putting more thought into beauty and presentation and making people feel, welcomed and valued and inspired even. Like it sounds stupid to feel inspired by a plate of sushi.
No, I don't think so at all. I'm a big foodie. I love it. Yeah.
It's stuff. And then one of the last things I have on here is there can be a lot of pressure to have this tough guy presentation for men. And so when was the last time that you cried in front of people? You mentioned when you saw the Alps and you just like broke into tears, something other than that.
I tried to think of a time when I had cried in front of someone other than my wife, and I couldn't think of one. It's been a long, long time.
Well, that does not mean you're not like emotionally present.
Sure. Yeah, we talked about how she's like my safe space, so it makes sense. But I'm not as open maybe as I would like to be, but I also don't cry a lot. It wasn't too long ago. I actually kind of just randomly got to a breaking point one day because I was just feeling the pressure of a lot of things. Feeling like I had to be a man and like protect a lot of people in my life and keep them from the reality of the way that I was actually feeling, because I was afraid that they couldn't handle the reality. If I was scared or if I was worried or if I was nervous about the situation, that they wouldn't be able to handle it. And there were several different kind of smaller situations and people that I was doing this for in my life, but I got to a point where I was just like, my body was like, you need to cry. And I just had a good sob, and it felt so cathartic, so therapeutic, just to be able to release that and do it in a safe place, where I didn't feel like I was being weak. So that was one. And then America's Got Talent gets Laura and I all the time.
Oh, Alexa and I just had this conversation. Have you seen that Hawaiian guy who won? That wasn't America's Got Talent. That was American Idol.
Okay. I haven't seen
the guy whose dad died, and he sings this song.
Oh, yeah, the big guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
We were just...
There's some good ones on there, and it's just like, wow, humanity is so cool and beautiful, and it overcomes so much, and like, I just want to give this guy a hug or this lady a hug or whatever, So, yeah, that's another thing that's just real and beautiful, when people get up there and show you what they've overcome.
Yeah.
So that one gets us a lot.
Oh, 100%. I've been subscribed to them for a long time and just spend way too much of my work days like, oh, now I'm on another video, because it just inspires.
It's also very uplifting. Yeah. I could remember back in like the early 2000s, like the American Idol stuff, and they would have just as many really bad ones as they did good ones. And it was fun, and you could like get a good laugh, but I really appreciate that AGT is just like, it's all quality and it's all uplifting.
Yeah, and again, that's sort of like the goal of this podcast of things like America's Got Talent really inspired me of, this feels so good. Like I feel like I want to do things for society, like I want to be a better person, and I want to put more content out into the world that's inspiring people to think of these things and not being so like critical and judgmental or making fun of this group or that group or being contentious about whatever political or religious issue. And so America's Got Talent's definitely got a spot in my heart. For me, the crying thing would have been and I don't know entirely why this is, but when I got married, I teared up and choked up, but I didn't like really lose it. When my grandma died, it was the same thing. Like I really teared up, but didn't lose it. Same with when my son was born. But then when our daughter was born, I was just like really messy. And maybe it's just something about like a daddy-daughter thing, like the sweet little girl. And, but I just, Yeah, I was very, very emotional, and we had midwives. We did a home birth, and they were a little like, I wouldn't say concerned because they see like emotion all the time, but just like, oh wow, and it felt out of place for me in ways of I don't know, I just love that kid, and I don't know what else there is to say, but that was a time where, so in front of people, you're in this very vulnerable space, which I'm in a vulnerable space when Alexis
is spread out on the table.
Yeah, exactly. But emotionally vulnerable place, and it was just a pretty magical experience. But do you have any like closing thoughts or challenges to people?
Yeah, I mean, presentation, there's a balance to it, like we've talked about, but I would say just have fun with it. I think most of us know in our conscience whether we're in a healthy place with it or whether we're overly concerned with what other people think about us. But I would say just try something new. Try something new with that presentation. Just get out there if there's something that you've been wanting to do, or you've been holding back because of family or friends or whatever. If you need to go on a little vacation, if you need to take that outfit with you somewhere else, that's something my wife and I really enjoy when we go other places, just like wearing fun stuff that maybe we wouldn't wear to our family dinner. But do it. That's my challenge. Just do something different, try it out, and be silly and be fun and be confident with it.
Yeah, I think I'd have a less universal challenge and maybe speak to the guys who might be in a similar position that I was in, of just not caring at all about your appearance. If you are one of those guys, I just challenge you to like get some new clothes. Like if you just wear random t-shirts and like get yourself something that looks a little nice. It doesn't have to be expensive, but just as like that you could wear to in various situations, and it'd be casual enough but like presentable. It can do a lot to just think a little bit about what you're wearing out into the public world. And so that's really all we got for you this time, and we appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time.